Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
We are told to let our light shine, and if it does, we won't need to tell anybody it does. Lighthouses don't fire cannons to call attention to their shining. They just shine. That's true. Morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a Patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance on a Wednesday. Good morning, good morning, good morning. And a good morning to you and your family. And, boy, I'm kind of sleepy this morning. Didn't get much sleep last night, so we're going to browse our way through this as we go through the morning. I'm Zeb Bell, Zeb at the Ranch, and welcome to you. And don't forget our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And don't forget, too, some of our great advertisers like Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Hello, Nick Greenwell and the great staff at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. And right now, let's go without further ado and have our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Well, good morning, sir.
You the man.
Yes, sir.
All right, go ahead.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Attaboy, Wheels, good job. And right now it's time for our weather forecast, and it's brought to you by K&R Rental. Roger and the crew at 256 South, 600 west of Heyburn, right there on the Burley-Paul Highway. You can't miss them, and if you don't see them, you shouldn't be driving anyway. So be sure and give them a call, too, at 678-3122. They open the doors early in the morning at 7 o'clock to serve you with all your tools, all your equipment for the various jobs. And, like me, you're not sure what you need. Well, just go in and explain what you're doing. They can help. They can get the right stuff for you at K&R Rental on the Burley-Paul Highway in Heyburn. Right now, here's our weather.
It's a beautiful day as we hit midweek stride. Here is your weather forecast. Today is going to be nice, and as we make our way through the rest of the week, not so much. Looks like mostly sunny skies for today. A little on the breezy side. Winds out of the east-southeast, right around 15 miles an hour. Gusts possible as high as 23 miles an hour. We are expecting a high of 44. Tonight, mostly cloudy skies with a low of 32. Now, tomorrow is when things are going to change. Snow likely mostly before noon. We're expecting mostly sunny skies with a high of 37. Winds are picking up out of the south right around 15 miles an hour. Gusts possible as high as 30 miles an hour. Expecting a 60% chance of snow. New snow accumulations of less than a half an inch possible. More snow is expected for tomorrow night, mostly after midnight. Mostly cloudy skies with a low of 25 for Friday. 40% chance of snow showers in the forecast. Winds out of the west right around 15 miles an hour. Gusts possible as high as 28 miles an hour. That is your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Oh, my. Angel dandruff in the forecast. And the weather forecast brought to you this morning, thank you, Gina, by K&R Rental. They can help you find the tools and equipment that you need, and you can go online, too. Fill out the online estimates, and they'll give you estimates on all the rentals, what it's going to cost, what's best for you. Just get a hold of them today, 678-3122. K&R Rental with Roger and the crew on the Burley-Paul Highway. Oh, So if we got a full plate of things to take care of today, we're going to be talking about the Dreamers here in just a moment. And I've got a lot of animosity that I want to share with you this morning, and I want to see if you agree with me. So we're asking you to get on the phone and give us a call at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Ramsey Heating and Electric, don't forget, they get there early in the morning, and they open the doors at 7:30 to 5 Monday through Friday, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. You can call them at 678-0459, and they have all your heating, all your cooling, all your electrical needs. I mean, all of it. They've got a huge warehouse right there, and they've got people that really know. They are professionals. So get a hold of them today. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. Before I go any further, I want to mention tomorrow is the big day for our Zeb's Lunch Bunch, our January edition. And Lord willing and not too bad of weather, we'll have a good turnout tomorrow at Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley. That's right, the very best of food, whether you like breakfast, lunch, dinner, anytime, all the time. Great, delicious menu choices and super nice people. I mean, they've got a staff of people that always are smiling and caring. Stop into America's Diner, Denny's Restaurant at 611 North Overland in Burley, and another location at 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. Denny's Restaurant, the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch, and we will be there tomorrow at 11:30. Okay, folks. And by the way, I want to thank our gift certificate donors: Walmart, Smith's Foods, Hanson Mortuary, Stokes Groceries, and Doug Martin, along with Denny's, every month really helping us with our door prizes. Thank you. Well, the Dreamers did it, and they did it to themselves, and they really showed their true colors. These are illegals. Illegal aliens living here in this country, brought here by their parents or birthed here in this country, or birthed right before they came to this country, and still are illegal aliens. And they, the DACA or the Dreamer kids, yesterday they did something that it was so repulsive to me that my sympathies, if I had any at all for them, have been diminished. They're out the window and gone. What they did in California yesterday was block the entranceway for people trying to get in and enjoy the day at Disneyland. Now, I have never been to Disneyland. I've been all over the world, and honestly, I feel bad because one of these days I got to take off and go down there. I want to go to Disneyland. That's one of my bucket wishes, if you will. But here are people trying to get in to Disneyland to enjoy a day with their kids and their family, and these DACA Dreamers blocked the entranceway and would not let them in. They were demanding things from our government. They were demanding that President Trump and the Republican Party give them all the gratuities that they are demanding. This is absolutely repulsive to me. Illegal aliens demanding and protesting and stopping legal citizens from taking their family to a family outing. Now, I don't know about you folks, and if you have a soft heart for the DACA, the Dreamers, illegal aliens, you've got to admit this is not the way to get sympathy from especially a person like myself. Then, last night on television, the mayor of Albany, New York, which Albany is a sanctuary city, she stood up for these illegal aliens, and her and another person on television last night said, they have all the rights that we have when they're... Wait a minute. You can argue with me that they've lived here in this country and there's an assumption of rights, but they're not legal citizens. You go to Yugoslavia, China, Japan. I don't care where you go. You're not going to be demanding for the rights that those people have, if any are to be incurred. This is absolutely insane that these people, these liberal lefties, are going to turn upside down the legal part of our system and turn it into illegal chaos. What are your thoughts? Give me a call at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Now we're catering to the illegals. Now we're doing and taking up their demands. What rights? Give me a break. Give me a call. Hey, by the way, don't forget, I want to remind everybody about Dino's Septic Service. Yeah, here we are. One of my favorite ads. It really is. Nice people, too. We met them at Christmas time. Dino's Septic Service over in Rupert, and pumping of septic tanks and drain fields installed, backhoe service, and sewer and sink drain lines cleaned, septic inspections, liquid waste removal, all of this and more with a smile on their face. Fast, fair, friendly service serving you. Dino's Septic Service in Rupert, 436-6526, or in Burley, 678-1638, with a great big truck that says, smells cargo on the way. Dino's Septic Service. Caller, I'll be right there. Stand by. Please don't go away. I want to remind everybody, too, about Warm Up Wednesdays. Today is the day you can take a tour of great living at the Pomerell Place at 1301 Bennett Street in Burley. I'm really high on these folks over there at Pomerell Place because, man, it is a place for seniors to really, really have the ability to maintain their independence both safely and comfortably. I urge you to get a hold of them today and find out more. Pomerell Place, located at 1301 Bennett Street in Burley. Number to call and find out more information, 677-8212. 677-8212. Pomerell Place, a place for senior living. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, but I got a call coming in. I'll call you.
Oh, well, adios, amigo. I guess we've got another one waiting in line, so call back, Doug. I'd appreciate that. Caller number 2, thank you for calling. Good morning, you're on the air.
Oh, no one's called in yet, sir.
I thought I heard the phone ringing.
Nope.
Oh, I bet that was over at his store when he said he had a call ringing in.
Yes.
Aha! We did our detective work. Okay, calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. You know, these demands from illegal aliens, please, they mean nothing to me. And I don't know why we are even catering to them, demanding and protesting and putting people in fear for their wants. How would you feel, seriously? And I want somebody to call me on this. You go down to Disneyland, maybe you've driven 700, 800, 1,000 miles to get to Disneyland, kind of like Chevy Chase's summer vacation movie, and you go up to the gate ready to walk in and have really a fun day with your kids. And you walk up to the gate and you've got a whole bunch of these dreamers, illegal aliens, throwing cards in your face about what their demands are, yelling at you to turn around and go home. They're not going to let you in. Oh, that's not going to set good with this old cowboy, I'll tell you that. Caller, good morning. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are that these people have no rights at all. They are illegal. I don't care if they're kids, grown-ups, or what they are. They don't belong here. They need to be sent back, and they need to come in legally.
You know, ma'am, don't hang up because I want to ask you something. You've called quite often, and I really do appreciate your calls. But now to the people, and maybe you know some, to the people that have... I know, but now let me just say this to you. To the people that have tried for a long time to be qualified to come into this country through the legal channels, isn't this an absolute slap in the face of doing something legal to the people that are trying to do it the right way?
It most definitely is. It's just not right. They come into this country. I don't care if their parents brought them here, and it wasn't their fault, they still need to be sent back to the country they came from and go through legal channels.
You know,
the way they treat us like they're the king or queen of the country, it's not right and it's not fair. We struggle and we struggle and we struggle, and they get all of the goodies.
Well, you know, basically what you said is really the truth. And I, for one, I'm fed up with this. I think that the Democrats, which the only reason, and I want your answer on this, the only reason, and I've said this on my program many times, that the Democrats are backing the Dreamers and DACA and illegal aliens, it's for one 5-letter word: votes.
That's right. That is right.
Well,
I'm just so tired of them, it's not even funny.
Amen.
And they're just trying to overtake us and trying to overthrow the government, you might say.
Yeah.
And, well, if you know your history at all, then when we, as a young country, started going out to the California in the gold rush and everything, and pushing them Mexican people back to Mexico, then they considered California theirs and Texas and all of those areas, and they said, we're going to take it back, and it might be a long time from now, but we're going to get it back.
Well,
and they are really working hard at it.
I agree. And California, the state itself, is very complicit in all of these illegalities. Thank you so much for your call. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. That lady was spot on. I've had enough. And by the way, there are treaties from over these 150, 60, 70 years that show and prove that we didn't take it from anybody. It was a treaty situation. I am so sick and tired of people not knowing and understanding really the truth about past historical deeds or misdeeds on either side. But right now, I am fed up with people that, I dare you. I've been to Spain and other countries. I dare you to go to another foreign country, and you don't like something that's being done to you or around you, and you start making your demands. You go picket against the government. You go picket for the changes just to be more or less soul satisfying to you. And you know how far that's going to get you? Probably nothing more than a set of handcuffs to go to jail and sit and think about your stupidity for a long time. Well, here in this country, blocking Disneyland to get your demands, how disgusting. And I said this a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to maintain this, that in this instance, for those families that were being blocked out of enjoying a day at Disneyland with their family, they should have all got together and formed a human wedge and not in a very kindly fashion walked over every one of those protesters. And I mean that. They should have steamrolled the problem and just walked in. And quite frankly, I think it would have been in favor to do that and not waiting until the police came to try to disband them and the police talked to them kindly. Baloney. Get out the nightsticks, clear the path, and let legal citizens in to enjoy their day. Enough of this mamby-pamby. Oh, let's not touch them. They might cry. This is pathetic. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Let's not forget our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Hello, Nick Greenwell and all the staff. I know all these folks, and wow, they really, really help me, and I know they can help you. Now, with the cold and the snow and the ice and everything, that just is asking for some kind of a wreck to happen. You know, you slip and you fall, and maybe you're going to break a bone, or maybe you're going to get all stove up and sprains and strains and everything. Well, they can and they will help you. Or maybe you had surgery and you're trying to get back to being yourself. Hey, give them a call, 678-1191. That number again, 678-1191. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley serving you. You know, don't be afraid to call and voice your opinion on this, because I'd like to really know, what would you do, honestly, if you had driven down to Disneyland and you had your family with you and you were on a limited time, limited budget, etc., and they blocked you with all their ferocious demands? We demand that you do this, United States. We demand that you do this, President Trump. We demand that you do this for us illegals, Congress. How far is that going to go with you? It's not going to put any water in my bucket, I'll tell you that. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Sometimes I get to worrying that on various subjects, some of you are maybe afraid to say anything because of your neighbors might recognize your voice. Don't be afraid. Speak out. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, Zeb, you're touching a pretty little subject there. If I was driving down to Disneyland, going all these miles from about here to Disneyland, it's about 1,100 miles, and if you've driven straight through and you get there and you see a bunch of these protesters laying on the road in front of you, I just turn and look at the family and say, okay, guys, hold on, we got speed bumps ahead.
You know, now wait a minute.
Over the top of them. Stick with them. I mean, if they're in the way, and, you know, it's something there when they keep screaming and hollering, oh, discrimination, oh, it's terrible and everything, but they sure go about the actions to bring it on and precipitate it a lot more than what it absolutely should be. They make a mountain out of a molehill.
Well, you know, anytime that you have somebody demanding something, and I don't know if it's ever happened in your life where somebody comes up to you and says, I demand that you do this, or you have an employee that works for you and comes up and says, I demand that this be done. Boy, I'll tell you what, the first thing I do is kind of step back a step, look at them, and then I'm planning on A, either firing them if they're an employee, or B, making sure that their problem doesn't come up in my face again. I am absolutely fed up with people that are making demands, but this situation's even worse. These are people that do not belong here in this country. They are not bona fide citizens of this country, and I'm going to be very blunt on this. I hope they never become citizens of this country.
Me either. I mean, we're making demands and everything like that. There's so many people out there in this world that just feel like they're entitled to something, and they just haven't done a darn thing to even get anywhere near even earning it.
I agree.
And then they start making these little, well, I want this and I want that, and I demand you give it to me. It's wrong.
Well, look at the welfare system in this country, and look at the illegal aliens with their demands, and look at others with demands. And you and I, as bona fide taxpayers and people that have worked hard all of our life to get things and food on our table, clothes on our back, take our kids and make sure they get a good education, we paid for everything. We didn't rely on government stipends or welfare. And then these people are demanding this of me. I'm going to draw the line in the sand and say, hell no.
Exactly. That's why I say I couldn't agree anymore. That's a good exclamation point right there, what you just said.
All right, sir. God bless you for your call. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You have a great day.
Thank you. Yeah, I am sick and tired of being demanded to. You know, and these kids were standing there with their signs and some of the verbiage and everything, and nasty, nasty slogans that were being shouted and everything, and stopping. This is the part that just drove me nuts. People from enjoying a day with their family, because these illegal aliens were not getting their way in our country. Go figure the sense to that. By the way, every Monday we give a dozen cookies away from Sophie's Chatterbox at 530 East Street in Rupert. Oh, my goodness, what a bakery over there, what a restaurant. And let me tell you, she is now making wedding cakes. And she sent me a picture, a couple of them as a matter of fact, about a week ago on my cell phone. Wow. I mean, if you're planning a wedding, that's the place to go for your wedding cake. Sophie's Chatterbox, 530 East Street in Rupert. Like I said, great restaurant, great bakery serving you. And every Monday we have our cookie giveaway. You be listening. Also, real quick, before I take some more of your calls, I want to remind you about the urgent cares. These are such nice people that are really serving you and your family and your business. And let me tell you where they're located. Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center at 382 North Overland in Burley. The Urgent Care of Jerome at 133 West Avenue A and 2392 Addison Avenue East in Twin Falls Urgent Care. Now, you know, you get treated, not seated. There is nothing worse than having to wait to get treated. Well, you go on in there, you get treated, not seated, no appointments necessary. They're open 7 days a week with extended hours and always a qualified provider on staff. And they are trying to save you money on your health care. Absolutely the urgent cares. Urgent Care of Twin Falls, Urgent Care of Jerome, and Riverview Urgent Care in Burley. You and your family and your business, stop in and see them today. All right, now it's your turn. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Come on. Give me a call. Let's see. I wanted to go down. Deplorable and sickening Rosie O'Donnell. Remember her? I mean, there are a couple of people in the entertainment world that I find absolutely despicable and very low character, and Rosie O'Donnell is one of them. She has had a hatred for Donald Trump for quite some time, even long before Donald Trump became president. They don't like each other. And she came out with a statement yesterday that I thought had reached an all-time new low. She said she hopes every day that something very bad will happen to President Trump. Now, if you or I had said something like that on the radio or in public someplace, or somebody quoted you that you hope something really, really bad happens to President Obama, wow, what do you think would have happened? What do you think would have been done or said against you? And possibly even some of those people that wear those dark-colored suits might have been knocking on your door. But the left can get away with this kind of stuff. She hopes something very, very bad happens to Donald Trump. She hopes that every single day. That is despicable. As much as I could not stand Barack Obama, his wife, and their ideology, you never heard me say anything like that or even close to it on this radio program. But they come out like this and say, well, I hope this happens to him. I hope this happens to him. And they get away with it. The left is proving no class. No class. By the way, right after I do this next commercial, you're not going to believe what the state of California wants to do now. I think that state is being run by a bunch of stooges that have been rejects from the original Three Stooges. Wow. Jerry Brown, come on. Retire. Head for the hills or something. I'll tell you about that in just a minute. But right now, I also want to remind you about our dear friends at Berry Equipment and Rental. Oh, my goodness, they are busy. They've got 3 locations serving you. And our old buddy Juan is running the one at 159 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. We've had him on the program a lot. Really a nice guy. And, of course, they've got another location at 465 Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls and another location up in Nampa. Really good people that have all the equipment you need to get the job done right. And I really highlight all the Bobcat excavators. They've got new and used excavators, all the shapes and sizes, and they got a special deal, negative interest on all the Bobcats. That means the interest on a machine is subtracted from the price when you buy it. Woo! You better check it out. All the equipment rentals, retail equipment sales at Berry Equipment and Rental in Twin Falls, Nampa, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Berry Equipment and Rental. I did not get all the particulars on this story this morning, and so the reason I say that is because if there's something that's been omitted, I'm going to leave the door open for additions and corrections. But the gist of what I heard earlier this morning is that the state of California, their lawmakers, and Jerry Brown are really not happy campers with the Trump administration, and they did not like the fact that a lot of businesses were giving bonuses to their people that have worked for them, you know, the $1,000 bonuses, etc., kind of a rebate type thing, which I thought was really, really good, solidifying a employee-employer relationship. Well, they looked at all that money that these businesses were giving to their employees as kind of an encouragement and a rebate type thing for a job well done. And the state of California now says, I think that the state of California should create a tax, a special 10% tax on those companies, and the state gets the money. So in other words, if you gave Mr. Employee Joe Smith over here a bonus, and Mrs. Jones a bonus, and all these other people a bonus, we've got you in our target sites, and we're going to tax you a special 10% tax to get that money back and give it to the state of California. It gets worse every day. And people in California that I know, you know, some of them are embarrassed to even live there. And, you know, you take the outrigger communities, if you will, like Bakersfield and Red Bluff and Tulare and all those great, great towns with rural ag people living in agricultural settings. They are mad as heck against the so-called leadership in the state of California. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Well, Moonbeam, Jerry Brown and company, you know, there's a lot of good, I have a lot of good friends in California, but it's amazing how many people, if they can sell their businesses, are getting out of there. You know, I mean, they basically are trying to relocate here over the Christmas holiday and so forth. I run into different people. It's amazing how many said, well, I'm moving to here, I'm moving to there in Idaho. And I think we're seeing the exodus from California is going to put a lot of pressure on our school systems. And just yesterday we had the Filer Highway District speak at our Kiwanis, and the increase in traffic is just incredible. The number of people out on the roads and so forth. But this whole deal is, you know, you take away from the producers, you end up to the point where pretty soon everybody is wanting to get on the dole, and there's no incentive to work. I also talked to a couple of young millennials from Oregon. It kind of gave me a renewed faith in the younger generation. They said, if you really want to get ahead in Oregon, you become a homeless person because they'll provide the housing, a car, everything you want. And, of course, the taxpayers are picking up the tab.
Yeah. You know, Adrian, one of the things that needs to be said here, and I want to make this point very clear that, again, if you get out of Sacramento, you get out of San Francisco, you get out of L.A., you're going to find some very, very conservative people that love this country as a whole, not just the state of California like Jerry Moonbeam Brown, and they want things to be right for their families and their future, but they're stuck in a very liberal left mess that looks like it's only going to get worse, and I don't blame these people for wanting to get out of California.
Well, and that's the problem, is they've taken control of the government, the bureaucracy. I mean, just the salaries, $120,000 for the football coach for a junior college in California, plus benefits. I mean, this is why they're broke. And look at the illegal aliens coming in there. I have a friend that moved in this area, very patriotic friend, and about 10 years ago. And there was the big invasion at that time of the illegal aliens. And now they estimate there's at least 2.3 million, and I bet that number's way low.
Yeah.
And the crime is going up. And this one family I talked to from Northern California, that actually around Redding, and they said that the gangs that are in there,
yes,
and police are just looking the other way, and there's no justice. You know, so when crimes are committed, the police just don't just look the other way, because if they do, then the ACLU and so forth comes down. So, you know, this deep state is in our country. I mean, I compare the morning news on ABC versus Fox. I mean, it's still Robert Mueller trying to find a Russian collusion with Trump, you know, and this guy and the FBI need to be totally clean house. Don't you agree, Zed?
Well, I would say this, and I've got to go do a commercial break, Adrian, but I'm not going to damn or criticize the bulk of the populace of the FBI. It's the hierarchy that has now lent themselves to being illicit, illegal, and that needs to be changed. There are a lot of good FBI people. I know some FBI people that are out there doing the right thing because it matters to them and their career. And it's just the hierarchy and leadership, if you want to call it that has been tainted and stained with illegality.
Oh, absolutely, and you're right. But the leadership needs to be totally cleaned out.
I agree.
Robert Mueller needs to go, and Strzok and Lisa Page and all of those.
Why are they still working there this morning? You know, come on, tell me about Lisa Page and Strzok. Why do they still have jobs in the FBI? Why in the world can the FBI look anybody in the face with a straight face and say, well, we lost 50,000 emails and it just happened, son of a gun, to be their text? I mean, come on, am I going to buy that? No, I got a bridge that'll go from here to England. Yeah, you bet.
Yeah, I got some beachfront property right here in Filer to sell you.
Amen. I got to run and do a commercial, Adrian. God bless you, man. Thanks.
Incredible, and it's like the people that were talking, a couple of the congressmen. I mean, every time there's an investigation, the email servers have been destroyed. The chips are gone. You know, it goes on and on. The emails are missing, and it's just more than coincidence. We have a deep state, if you want to call it a secret society, behind the scene that wants to destroy this country, make us a third world country, and this has been going on for decades. It's just coming to the surface.
I agree. I've got to run, Adrian. I'm running late. I got to get my weather in here. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Have a good day. It looks like we got a little change in the weather coming in tonight.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, if I were the FBI, I don't care if it's now the existing director or Comey or anybody. You know, really, this is pathetic. What they have done to tarnish and stain and hurt and cripple the FBI's image. It's pathetic. And last night it was almost laughable. Deanna and I were sitting there having dinner and watching the news, and to say that, well, the FBI says, well, we just absolutely can't figure out what happened to 50,000 texts. Oh, and by the way, those texts, they also include some of the important texts between Page and Strzok, and, well, we just don't know what happened to them. Oh, please. Time for the weather, brought to you by Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, and they're right behind the Minidoka Hospital, across from the emergency room. And the number to call, make an appointment, 312-0957. I was over there not too long ago, and they are expanding, and they've now got advanced diagnostic capabilities to test and help the common causes of vertigo, and also to provide testing to infants who fail the newborn hearing screening after their birth. Please take it upon yourself to call for an appointment today. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, 312-0957. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
It's a beautiful day as we hit midweek stride. Here is your weather forecast. Today is going to be nice, and as we make our way through the rest of the week, not so much. Looks like mostly sunny skies for today. A little on the breezy side. Winds out of the east-southeast, right around 15 miles an hour. Gusts possible as high as 23 miles an hour. We are expecting a high of 44. Tonight, mostly cloudy skies with a low of 32. Now, tomorrow's when things are going to change. Snow likely mostly before noon. We're expecting mostly sunny skies with a high of 37. Winds are picking up out of the south right around 15 miles an hour. Gusts possible as high as 30 miles an hour. Expecting a 60% chance of snow. New snow accumulations of less than a half an inch possible. More snow is expected for tomorrow night, mostly after midnight. Mostly cloudy skies with a low of 25 for Friday. 40% chance of snow showers in the forecast. Winds out of the west right around 15 miles an hour. Gusts possible as high as 28 miles an hour. That is your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Thank you, Gina, and brought to you by the lovely Dr. Christine Pickup and her staff at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, and they're located right behind the Minidoka Hospital, across from the emergency room, 312-0957. Callers, stay there just a moment, please. I've got to get this in real quick. I tell you what, Brian Scott, Dan King, Todd Lovelace, financial advisors with Waddell & Reed, will have a booth this year at Agri-Action in Twin Falls at the CSI Expo. It'll be on February 1, 2, and 3 at the Expo Center, and they specialize in comprehensive financial planning, retirement planning, investment planning, and insurance planning. They know. I know them. They're good. Absolutely. They're going to focus on farm and ranch succession planning, and then they're going to follow up a couple of days later, and they're going to have a free educational seminar on farm and ranch succession planning on Tuesday, February 6th at 6:30 p.m. at their office located in Twin at 1146 Eastland Drive North in Twin Falls. Waddell & Reed, don't miss this. I'm going to be there. You should be too. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, my friend.
Hey, with those dreamers, I guess, I don't like calling them that because, when I was young, I'm a dreamer too.
I'm going to call them nightmares.
Nightmares, there you go. But everybody's saying they have a right to do that. The Constitution says they have a right, but I have not read in the Constitution where it gives an illegal alien the right to protest the government.
Or stand in line and literally block honest, God-fearing people from enjoying a day with their family. I have not read that passage in the Constitution, and I have a dog-eared, highlighted version that does not tell me that.
Exactly. And these people that are saying they have a constitutional right, I'd like to have them take a test on the Constitution to see if they know what's in it.
Doug, honestly, I've got a caller number 2. Don't go away. I'll be there in a moment. But when you think about it, I'm going to put the question to you that I've asked others already this morning. If you and your family have driven all the way down there to go to Disneyland and enjoy the fun and frivolity of being with your family at a fun place, and somebody like these group of dreamers stand in your way and threaten you to go in, how's that going to go over, buddy?
Well, their rights ends where my nose begins.
There you go.
And if they're going to interfere me, if they're going to get in front of my car, they better be moving out of the way because that car is not going to stop.
I just don't understand why people think, and the liberal Democrats are advocating this, that illegal aliens can come in here to our country and they can demand of Doug Martin and Zeb Bell and anybody else, you will pay for me to stay. What?
Exactly. They need to earn it. I was thinking last night, when you're given something without earning it, you do not respect it near as much as if you earn it.
You got that right. And there's the key, though. Doug, you've worked hard. You've got your own business. You pay your own bills. Zeb Bell, I've paid my own bills. I've worked dadgum hard. And I'm not about to just sit there and hand it over to people that are making demands of me.
Exactly, And with these kids that have been brought in here, they say that some went in the military. I've heard that there's 0.07%, or 7% of 1%.
Mm-hmm.
Went in the military, so there's point, I can't remember how to put it. But anyway, those guys that went in the military, that are willing to lay their life on the line for this country, I feel they should have a chance to become citizens, because they're willing to step up and fight for this country. Now, you take those that went to high school, I hear there's almost 40 or 50% of them didn't even graduate high school.
Right there, you've made a point that needs to be elaborated on real quick, Doug, and I don't want to keep this other person waiting too long, is that we're always told by some of the liberal talk show hosts, on CNN, MSNBC, etc., that these kids are, they're all going to be rocket scientists. Why, they're all going to figure out how we can get to the moon again and all this. Wait a minute. There's a lot of gang problems. There's a lot of felons. There's a lot of people that have never finished high school. We've got a lot of negatives there, my friend.
Exactly. And the ones that didn't finish high school, you're out of here.
Absolutely.
The ones that have had problems with the police and everything, you're out of here.
Yeah,
you don't care if you're a dreamer or not. You're out of here.
Absolutely.
So that's where I stand on it.
I agree with you.
Call Senator Crapo's office and thanked him for coming on your show yesterday.
Well, that was really nice, because I know that we're trying to get more of Mike's time on our program, and hopefully we can do that the next time, but I do appreciate that. Doug, I got to run and get another one in here real quick. Thank you.
Now, God bless, and everybody, let's take care of our senior centers. Let's take care of the seniors. Let's do what we can. All
right, thank you very much. Caller number 2, sorry to keep you waiting. Go ahead, please. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. I just want to invite young or old, anybody, you don't have to be a senior, out to the senior center 5 days a week. Today we are having hot beef sandwich and all the trimmings and the yummy dessert. So everybody's welcome. Come on out, and we need your participation. You can't get a better value in a meal.
All right.
The seniors at 12 o'clock.
That's at the Senior Junction, and if you want to meet folks, one of the great, great guys, Joe Taylor's going to be there. Joe, God bless you for your thoughts. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Have a good day. We appreciate you.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. Hot beef sandwiches. I love hot beef sandwiches. That sounds really, really good. Hey, don't forget our friends at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you. Now listen. Tomorrow, it's supposed to start snowing again. I told you winter's not over. There's going to be more of that slush and ice and muck and yuck and snow and all that stuff to get through safely. Well, they've got the tires, the traction tires, to do the job. All you have to do is just stop in, talk to them, and they'll pick out the best kind of traction tire for you. They've got all the tire chains. They've got the best in brake service, front end alignment, shocks and struts and batteries. Nice people at all 7 locations. Absolutely. Stop in and see Lane and Rupert. Hello. Dave over in Blue Lakes and Twin Falls. Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome. The Twist family and Paul. Nice people. Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls. And my buddy Randy on Overland in Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. You want to hear something really goofy? Another goofy liberal story this morning. Ben Shapiro is a conservative young man that likes to speak about conservatism at various colleges around the United States. I've heard him speak. Ben Shapiro is scheduled to speak at the University of Yukon. I believe it's going to be this Friday. It might be Saturday. I'm not sure of the day. So the University of Yukon and the liberal students at the University of Yukon and their liberal professors have said, oh, Ben Shapiro is going to speak on our campus about conservatism. Oh, we demand that the college provide psychiatric care and counseling to the liberal Democratic students that can't handle this. They're not forced to go, but just having Ben Shapiro on the campus, they're going, oh, a conservative is going to speak on UConn's campus. Why, I've got to lay down on the couch and have somebody listen to my fears. This tells you how absolutely warped and basically unstable many of the younger generation are. Good heavens. What would have happened when you and I were in college and we would have said, oh my goodness, a conservative speaker is going to speak at the University of Wisconsin. And then I moved up to the University of Minnesota and I called my mom and dad and said, I don't know how to handle it. I know what my dad would have said. All right, we're going to take a little break and send it back over to our main studio. We'll be back with Dave Beagle back in Indiana in about 7 minutes. Don't go away. Oh, my. Here we go. Hour number 2, Zeb at the Ranch on a Wednesday morning already. January the 24th. Holy cow. Morning, and a thank you to our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations with all the winter traction tires for you. And also, don't forget some of our great advertisers like Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. We're going to have my guest on in just a moment, but I want to remind everybody first and foremost about our friends at Western Way Services. Wheels, play that jingle, please.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Way Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Way Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Way Services.
You know, they've got so much to offer you as service. You know, they've got the dumpsters in various sizes they can leave off at your property, fill them up, they'll come and get them, and then also the route service, and then also the storage units. Those great, big, beautiful Go Minis portable storage units, and you can have one dropped off at your place. You can fill it up and store it on your place, or if you don't have room, they can store it on their property. Check it out today. Give them a call. Always at your disposal. Our friends at Western Way Services, 734-6969. Real quick, also, I want to remind you about our dear friend, Joel Heward. Oh, my goodness sakes, his family and his staff serving you at Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. Always with the highest ethical standards, with unquestioned integrity. And, you know, they don't put in just a regular 8 to 5, 8 to 4 job. No, they're always there with flexible hours to serve you and your family when there is the passing of a loved one. Please write the number down and be sure and call 436-5636. That number again, 436-5636. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. And Joel also serving you at Morrison Payne Funeral Home on East Main in Burley. Right now, without further ado, I cannot wait to hear some of his comments about what's going on around the United States and the world today. Here's my dear friend Dave Beagle. How you feeling this week? Are you back among the living?
Hey, Zeb. How you doing?
I am great. I understand you weren't feeling too well last week. I hope you're doing better this week.
Yeah, I'm doing better. Not quite there, but I'm doing better. So, anyway. Hope you're feeling well.
I am absolutely. I got a tiger by the tail, and I'm shaking him. I'm telling you. We're getting a little feedback wheel, so you're going to have to really ride that gain. Dave, what did you think about the DACA story with the Dreamers yesterday in the entranceway to Disneyland? Here are illegal aliens that are supposedly part of the DACA or Dreamer age bracket, and they're making demands to the United States government. We want this, and you'd better give it to us, and stopping people and families from going into Disneyland and enjoying a day with them. This just absolutely sickens me that now the illegality in our society is making demands upon the people that are paying the bills.
Well, it's really sad, and our government needs to stand up on both sides of the aisle and say, we'll give you people a chance to become citizens here, but you've got to go through the process and all that, and if it doesn't work, then you won't be here anymore. I said this in a blog a couple of years ago. It's unfortunate that the Obama administration left our borders open and allowed all this to happen, but, yeah, we are a nation of immigrants, but we're a nation of immigrants who came through this country on a legal status and came through, and people have been doing that for many years until the Obama administration came into play. And these people need to go through the process. If they don't make it, they don't make it.
Okay, but Dave, why are we, the citizens, the taxpayers, the business owners, employees, etc., that are here legally, why are we being subjected to this absolute destitute of any thought or personality from the liberal Democrats? Why are we being subjected to this? Why don't we just stand up and say, go sit in the corner and shut up? We've had enough of this. Our Republican leadership is not showing any spine or backbone.
Well, they're not, and they've got to do it, and hopefully Trump will get them to do it. But you got to understand something, Zeb. There's a lot of businesses in this country that use these people.
That's right,
and pay them kind of under the table, so they're not paying them, even minimum wage and stuff like that. And so that's why you got a lot of people that are doing this stuff, and it's sad. And again, on both sides of the aisle. Democrats and Republicans, they got to stand up, have some backbone, and do the right things for this country.
But will it happen? I mean, we are called the bigots and the hate mongers, and I don't see this changing thanks to people like Governor Jerry Brown of California creating not only a sanctuary county area, but now it's going to a sanctuary state. And I don't see this situation getting any better. How is it going to be solved when you have utter chaos between the two partisan politics?
I think the only way is that, like I say, Trump has to get behind the Republican Party and get him some backbone. And, problem is this year with the election year process, I don't think you're going to see as much push. But that's what has to happen. He has to get behind them, and they got to stand up and use their majority in the House and Senate to get it done, but we'll see what happens.
Well, yeah, but Dave, that's part of the problem. These people that are both in the House and the Senate have been entrenched for many, many years, and it's kind of a scratch my back, I'll scratch your attitude. And I think this situation with DACA and the Dreamers, if you will, is more of a push to go with term limits than almost any other topic that we've got on the docket.
Well, and that's right, and we've talked about that before. We need term limits, and there's a lot of people in this country that believe in that, but getting these people in Washington to do that, unless the population gets up and starts pushing them, is not going to happen. And but I will tell you, we've got some people running for office in Indiana this year that are strongly behind term limits. They want to get there and get things done the right way, and spend their term and get out. And that's the type of people we need.
Let me ask you this. If you were president today, you were sitting in the Oval Office, and this Dreamer or DACA problem, and some say it's 800,000, some say it's way over and close to 2 million that are here illegally in this country, along with all the other illegal aliens that want to jump ahead of the line and jump ahead of the legal process, what would you do? How would you settle this problem?
Well, behind the scenes, I would get the head of the House and the Senate together and sit down, and other people that are causing problems. We'd have some frank discussions on this and what's truly going on, because that's the way you have to do it. And you have to really expose these things to these people and put pressure on them to do the right things for this country. And I think Trump will do that. It's a matter of when. Okay?
Do you think that immigration today is or should be the same as it was up to and over 150 years ago. I don't. I think that there needs to be quota systems. I think there needs to be more selection, if you will. I don't think you can look at a growing country of 150 to 200 years ago accepting everybody or anybody as today, where we've got such major problems and an economy and an environment that really can't take care of everybody. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I agree with you, and we actually have laws in place today that would limit how many people come in, and they'd have to go through a really strenuous process in that. But the problem is that that process has not been used over the past Obama administration, and Trump has he is working on getting that put back in place and reorganized again, and that's going to help a lot. And I think it'll start slowing down, and we're already seeing immigration slowing down. But what we got to do is fix the problem that's happened over the last 8 years and get it cleaned up, and then keep it that way.
Absolutely. Let's go to another subject right now, and you and I are basically the same age. In my lifetime, growing up, I remember the television shows about the FBI, and I remember all the great things with Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. and all the other people that portrayed the heads of the FBI and how diligent and how forthright they were. Oh, my goodness, times have changed. What are your thoughts about the very tainted and stained FBI?
I think it's sad, and I'm not surprised at all. And I think I've made this comment before. I think, Trump inherited an administration in Washington that has been polluted. And, the FBI is one of them, and there's other areas the same way. And he really has to dig into this and clean it up. And, he's talked about draining the swamp, and this is part of it, because you just got people in there that are doing things for their own benefit and for the people they've supported politically. And it's time to clean it all up and get people in there that do the right things for this country, not for their political agenda.
Dave, if all of a sudden either you or I were being investigated by the FBI and or the IRS, and they wanted some very pertinent information to the case that they knew we had, either in the form of emails or telephone calls or texts or whatever, and you or I said, well, we're sorry, Mr. FBI agent or Mr. IRS agent, we lost him. We just don't know what happened to him, so I guess case closed, goodbye, don't let the door hit you in the butt on the way out. But the FBI is saying they lost over 50,000 texts and information about these two agents, and here's the FBI. It's supposed to be the epitome of finding the real problem and solving it.
Well, that's exactly right. And here's the thing: is again, these are people that the Obama administration went in there, and behind the scenes, I still believe that his administration and the groups that he's with, the far left radicals, and that. They are working on still undermining this country. And with these people still in the FBI and the IRS and whatever other government agencies they're in there, these people are still communicating and being directed, and they're trying to fundamentally bring down this country. And, again, it's time to get them cleaned out and get people in there that really care about this country before they have a major effect. They're talking about a new America, from what I hear behind the scenes with OFA and Obama and, Soros and people like that.
Let me ask you this, kind of a scenario, but do you think that the corruption and that the power and that the money with the Clintons and possibly Barack Obama and George Soros and the liberal left that's trying to overturn this country, do you think right now that it has become so powerful, like a cancerous spider web growing out more and more into this country, that we can't turn this thing around?
No, I think we can turn it around. I think more and more people are waking up to what's going on, but we have to continue to get the word out and talk to people. And as I've traveled, I've talked to people, and it's kind of surprising. They say, it's bad what's going on, and I've talked to Democrats too about this and the same thing, and I think people are waking up. It's a matter of continuing to expose them and getting the word out. And what's sad is that I wanted to throw this out at you today. There's a Supreme Court case coming up, Janus versus the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees. And this is based on an appeal that AFSCME made on a ruling in Illinois a couple of years ago that doesn't allow unions to charge non-members union dues and that. And here's the sad part, though. Just this Monday, and I'm sure this is happening in not just my faith, the Catholics, but in a lot of faiths across this country, but the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops came out and sided with the union. They believe that unions are good things and that, countries need unions to take care of the people and the working class and all of that thing. And, in fact, they came out in their comment where is there's no good society without a good union. And you got to understand the unions are part of this far left that's trying to bring down this country. And here we have people in different religions across the country supporting them.
When it gets to that point where they, the Catholic Church or the Lutherans or the Methodists or whomever, have turned this into a politicized event and almost make you feel like you're being ostracized if you don't jump in and join the church's thoughts, there's trouble in River City, and this is bigger than we think.
Well, it is, but it's like last night. I was at an event last night, and I was sitting at a table with some people, and they happened to be some Catholics there and some other people, and I was talking about this thing. And the one guy says, you know something? He says, that's the problem we're experiencing in this country right now, and with the bishops and everything. And then he looked up and raised his eyes and says, and then we got the Pope that's behind all this stuff. And if that's what you want to call him, and it's interesting. Even people of the Catholic faith in that are opening their eyes and realizing this is not the right thing, and they're pushing back. And I think this is good.
Okay, but when you get to that point where you're seeing a dissension in the ranks, if you will, of various denominations, isn't that going to be perhaps maybe a destructive force against organized religion in general? And that's what I think is tearing our country apart?
Well, it could be, but the other thing is it could get to the point where they have some of the leaders step down, and we get new people in that do the right things for the religion and for this country. And I hope that's what happens. But it's kind of sad that we've got, like in the Catholic faith, a pope in Italy that's backing unions in this country and pushing the cardinals to do it. Or the bishops, I mean. But I can tell you from talking to priests and pastors and stuff like that in different areas, that they're opposed to this backing, and they're pushing back. So I think we may see some good things come out of it before it's over with.
I certainly hope so. I want to ask you this, though. When you had a chance, and over at the station Wheels, again, I'm getting a little feedback here. When you had a chance to look at the shutdown for 3 days, I was in favor of the shutdown, and I'll tell you why. I wanted to have it cause as much heartache and hardship as possible and have egg on both parties' faces so that they came together and solved it for us, the taxpaying public. And when I looked at the leadership, whether it was Mitch McConnell on the Republicans or Chucky Schumer with the Democrats, one thing came to mind before they even settled this mess was that those two people have way too much power, and they need to put more back into the party themselves that can work together with the other side of the aisle.
So I agree with you 100%, Zeb, and it's good to see them put in a position that they're not comfortable with, and that they back down out of it. And it's going to be interesting to see where this goes moving forward. But we need people like Schumer and Pelosi and them to step down again, we come back to the term limit things.
Yeah.
So we have people in Washington that are doing the right things for the American people and not for their own agenda.
Let me finally ask you this. Now, you've written books, and, of course, you're very well known. You're a great business leader, etc. But from your standpoint, after a year of Donald Trump and his administration, what, in your opinion, is the overall business climate in America?
Well, I think it's going very well right now. We're seeing it as, an opportunities for our companies and things growing. And, and the other thing is it's the unemployment rate's dropping. It's very hard to find people because people are going back to work and wages are growing and that. So I think he's got us headed in the right direction. Now it's time to address some of these other things that we talked about today, like the immigration and some other things. And I think he's going to do that. It's a matter of getting backbone in his supporters in Washington, the Republican Party.
Are you worried, like I am, that a lot of these issues, whether it's the Dreamers, the illegal aliens, or whether it has to do with the fractioning, if you will, of party politics, etc., that the big issues, ISIS, North Korea, China, etc., they're kind of being put on the back burner?
No, I think Trump is a true businessman. He delegates. He puts people in place that knows what they're doing. He delegates, and he lets them work on it, and he wants them to keep in place. And my gut feeling is that the American military is on top of these things, and if we see any pushback from those areas, we'll see a massive response by our American military, which is good.
One last question, Dave, and it's about the NFL. The American Vets Association, AMVETS, wanted to run an ad during the Super Bowl, and they were declined because the NFL said it was too political, which was absolutely stupid and asinine to me because they let the players take a knee or sit for a political stance. That's okay, but the AMVETS wanted to have an ad that said, please stand for the national anthem, and the NFL turned them down. How much lower on the totem pole can the NFL go?
I don't know. It's sad, and they're losing a lot of attendance and people watching it on TV and stuff like that, and it's going to result in loss of advertisement and revenues for them and that. And it's time for these people at the top of the NFL to stand up and have some backbone too. And again, a lot of this is being supported and pushed behind the scenes by the players.
Yeah.
So you got to have people stand up, and hopefully they'll do that before it's over with. We're going to see the NFL go in decline.
We have a caller with a quick question. I've only got a minute left, caller. Make it fast. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Well, the NFL is destroying its product, and Goodell is as sorry as a commissioner as I can even imagine. He's not even smart. He is a dim-witted boy. And then there's, even though it's satirical, they say it's a joke. But this thing about some of these games being rigged, and people are starting to wonder. And let me tell you something. If you're a diehard fan and you think that there is a rigged games going on, you're going to start to lose interest. And I tell you, I can't even imagine how these owners are putting up with Goodell. He's an idiot. I'll hang up.
All right. Dave, respond quickly.
I couldn't hear it all very well. He was but I think he's on the right track with things.
I do too, and as far as Roger Goodell is concerned, the only contract I would have offered him is shining shoes at the airport, but that's my own personal opinion. Dave, I've got something coming to you in the mail, as a matter of fact, and when you receive it, I'm going to be waiting for you to show me a picture of how it works, so be ready for that in the next couple of days.
I'll look forward to it, and I'll make sure you get a picture.
All right.
And have a great week.
All right, buddy. Dave Bigo in Indianapolis, Indiana. Author and a real knowledgeable man about what's going on around politics and the business world. Thank you very much. Right now, I want to remind you tomorrow is a big day on this program because we're going to premiere Intermountain Cassia Regional Hospital, and a brand new program at 918. That's right. Cassia Regional Hospital provides you and your family excellent health care, answers, and services. They're right here, close to home. That's right. Cassia Regional Hospital offers the latest technological advances in medicine, like their new oncology programs and telehealth, and which uses electronic information and telecommunications to promote long-distance patient clinical health care. Boy, they're progressive, and they're helping you, your friends, your neighbors. Cassia Regional Hospital. Quality care close to home, and they're going to be on our program tomorrow with that first meet the staff members, find out more about their departments at 9:17 tomorrow morning, so don't you miss it. Right now, I also want to remind you about our friends at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. My, there's a lot of good things going on at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More, and as soon as I can find the paper, I'll share all those wonderful things with you. Here we go, out with the old, in with the new at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Holy cow, they've got a great selection of sofas and love seats. Yes, they've got over 60 styles and colors to choose from, and listen to this, sofa and love seats as low as $44 a month. I'm not kidding. You better run. Don't walk, run into Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More today. Talk to Jeff Bronson and all the staff ready to serve you, out with the old and in with the new at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. 459 Overland in Burley, waiting to serve you right now. Wheels over at the station. I'm getting a little bit of hum on the line, like that in my background of my headset. Are you hearing it, or is it a problem with the line? Do I need to call back, or what?
I'm not sure. I'm not hearing the humming or anything on my end, but if you like to, if it works for now, we can do it at the top of the
we will do that. And the only reason it's humming is because it doesn't know the words.
Yeah.
Okay.
The phone system's crazy usually, but yeah,
all right.
I'm fine with establishing the call.
All right, I'll try it again later. Hey, before I get my guest on the air right now, I want to remind you about Let's Ride. 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. This is where the fun is sold. They've got all the snowmobiles. They got all the four-wheelers. They've got all the side-by-sides. They've got all the accessories. They got a phenomenal service department to keep you running. What are you waiting for? Get over there. Open the door to the showroom, stand back, and go, holy moly, how'd they get this all in here? They've got it all for you. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturdays 9 to 4, located at 270 Highway 24 over by Rupert. Listen, stop in today. They are the best. Let's Ride. Yep. Where the fun is sold. Right now, we're going to go to the phone line, and a gentleman that has been on my program many, many times in the past, and I consider him to be one of my favorite guests on this program, and I'd like to introduce to everybody the president of Americans for Limited Government, Richard Manning. Richard, my friend, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great, Zeb. How are you? Thank you for the nice introduction. I consider this to be one of the great talk shows to be able to be on. You have such a great insight into what's going on. You always have.
Well, I appreciate that.
Questions, so I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you very much. And I think what I'd like to ask you about more so than anything else this morning is, and I'm going to simplify it a little bit for my own sake, is that here we have a problem with illegal aliens. Here we have a problem in the United States with illegal aliens. Here we have a problem with the Democrats absolutely taking up their cause for one reason and one reason only, and that's votes. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure that out. But when we saw yesterday at Disneyland in California, Richard, the DACA or Dreamers blocking the entranceway and making demands to you and I as taxpayers, any and all feeling towards the Dreamers went out the window, and I say export them, get them out of here, because I'm not going to have demands made on me, a legal tax-paying person. How would you respond?
Well, I think it's interesting that they chose Disneyland, since Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, went off and said that he demanded that the DACA recipients receive full amnesty, and was was shot down on that based on the fact that somebody enters Disneyland, breaks into Disneyland, doesn't pay. They don't let them stay. They kick them out. So Bob Iger having Disney being the focal point of that really highlights the ignorance of those who are pushing for amnesty, and that they're saying somebody who breaks into our country, if the 2-year-old in a stroller, if his parents break into Disneyland and don't pay, they don't really let the 2-year-old in the stroller stay. They don't say, oh, well, the parents are here and they're nice, and so, gee, they've got 2-year-olds, so they get to stay. No, they kick them out. And that's so picking Disneyland as their focal point really makes the point that, ultimately, if you break into a business, you're not allowed to stay, and if you break into the country, you're not allowed to stay.
I got to be honest with you, Richard. I've never seen the face or complexion of America be twisted and skewed like it is right now by the Democrats and the liberal left. And it goes along with what the Bible used to say. Good will become evil, evil will become good. And that's what's happening in this country. Can we ever get this thing figured out so that right is right and wrong is wrong?
Well, we can if we fight and make our case, and we have to retake our education system so we're not training people to think upside down and have different values than American values. And Zeb, just as this is kind of a bigger point, but very, very few, about 17% I read, of all history majors have to take in college an actual real life American history course.
Wow.
That's the U.S. university system where we are excluding U.S. history as being part of a curriculum for people who are going to be history majors. Those are the people who are going to teach history in their colleges, in our high schools, and in our elementary schools. And yet we're not requiring them, in order to get a degree, to take a single American history course. And those that are required to take American history courses are sitting there taking things that are like the history of the women's movement in America. And that's being counted as an American history course. So we have fundamental historical illiteracy, fundamental illiteracy about freedom and what it means and the unique American experiment. So is there any doubt why American exceptionalism is under siege, not from the outside, but from the inside of our country?
Yeah, but Richard, wait a minute. You've been on this program a long time, and I always enjoy having you on here because we come up with some very decisive answers. How do we change this? It's not the kids, it's the teachers, and it's the parents that have become lax in really wanting to have their kids learn about patriotism, right and wrong, the Constitution, our flag, and the honoring of our flag. We have got so far away from this, and I don't know how this happened. It didn't happen in my generation because, boy, I'll guarantee you, if you didn't stand for the national anthem, my dad, an old German, would have put a size 12 right in your backside.
Well, it changed. It changed when the people who were marching on the streets against the Vietnam War decided that they were going to take over the education system. It changed when we had Bill Ayers, who actually killed people in an attempt to create revolution. Rated up a president of the United States. It changed when we allowed them to put in Common Core, which under the guise of having universal standards, instead we're putting universal system for brainwashing our kids. And the way we stop it is at the local level, parents need to tell their schools that they won't put up with this. They need to tell their schools they expect their kids to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance every morning, whether they're in kindergarten or they're a senior in high school. They want that they expect to stand, put their hand over their heart, and say the Pledge of Allegiance. In elementary school and junior high school, perhaps they should be singing at one of the many patriotic songs that I used to sing when I was a kid that age in those school systems to try to imbue that sense of specialness that is being an American. We need to take back if we just did those simple things, we could change the culture in terms of how kids are being taught to look at America, where they're only shown the warts and they're never shown the brilliance of the painting.
Absolutely.
And so that's a simple answer. You make sure your kids are saying the Pledge of Allegiance in schools. And if the school district won't allow them to, work with some people to homeschool and don't let them to kill your kids' future by turning them into left-wing zombies.
I couldn't agree more. As a matter of fact, I'm going to save this portion of the tape and I'm going to replay it, what you just said. I totally agree with you. But there's another side, and there's another shade, if you will, of color that goes on the other end of the spectrum, and that goes from the kids and our education, and it goes right straight to the congressmen and the senators. I dare say that the congressmen and senators, are some of the most short-sighted on education and flag education and constitutional education. I don't think a lot of these people, men and women, know Khmer from Sikkim.
Well, I think you're right. It's it's one of the great, let me just tell you that the opportunity is that you guys have in Idaho, and in the West as a whole. You don't have all that many representatives. You don't have all that many, you have the same number of senators as somebody from California. Make sure the guys you send back here get this. Make sure they, really make sure they're not just the standard, person who's kind of out of the stamp mold of being a, Chamber of Commerce guy who kind of elevates themselves up, and they were in the State House, and they really didn't do anything to offend anybody, so they were elevated up to the next level. Send us people who are going to fight for freedom. I just think that's, the single best thing that people in Idaho can do is send leaders who are going to fight for freedom back here to Washington, D.C., so we have people who here saying what the people of Idaho want, as opposed, and I'm not saying this is about both of your representatives, but because I think one of them is doing a pretty good job. But, sometimes getting seniority becomes more important than getting it right.
Amen. Amen.
Send us people, send us help. Now, we fight this with members of Congress who are sent from all over the country, and we need Idaho to send us people who represent Idaho values.
Amen.
We'll fight for them.
Absolutely well said. We have a caller with a question for you. Go ahead, caller, quickly. You're on the air.
Well, see, Idaho values, and Idaho is the last bastion of what we might call the old America, the way it ought to be, because we're surrounded, our West Coast, California, Oregon, and Washington, they are slipping into the dark side, and in fact, they already are. And their governors are just off their rockers. There ain't a one with an ounce of sense, it seems. And they're flowing into here. And we have two representatives, Labrador and Simpson. Simpson hasn't said one word, not one word, about what's going on with this investigation, Mueller, and the memo. And you call back there and you want them to, do you give a flying what about anything, Mr. Simpson? But we can't get rid of him because people just, even in Idaho, I guess we're forgiving. And for whatever the reason, I'll hang up.
Respond to the caller, if you would, Richard, please.
Well, you get a chance every 2 years to get rid of him, and it's in the primary.
Right.
So if you feel like Representative Simpson isn't doing the job he should do, and I'm not going to disagree with you, then the answer is make sure somebody who wants to do that job runs against him in the primary. So at least for a few months, he has to pretend.
Let me ask you this. As President of the Americans for Limited Government, that is your title, that's the name of your organization. And we've seen government grow and expand like a cancerous tumor. And I want to get your opinion. I've said it on my program. I was never a fan or an advocate of term limits. I have changed my feelings, and I think it's high time to get some of these people out of their seats, out of the Potomac area of D.C., go home. I'm now in favor of term limits. What are your thoughts?
I struggle on term limits because I look at places like California and other places that have term limits, and I see that since then the situation spiraled into a much worse situation. Here's what happens sometimes with term limits, and I'm not taking a position against or for it, but because I haven't, I was in favor at one point, and I've kind of been looking at it. My feelings have transformed the other way. I'm from California, so I pay attention to what happens in California politics. And what happens with term limits is the few good guys who exist in the state legislature, they end up, they end up becoming a focal point because you only have to worry about a certain number of races. And it ends up creating a tremendous opportunity for a public employee to pour lots of money in against one of the few freedom fighters to blow them out, and there's no countervailing pressure on the other side because they're not having to, because of the nature of the term limits we have, at least California 6 years and the Assembly in 2-year terms. They're able to zero in on a very few who are running in their 2 terms remaining, and zero in on them and make their lives miserable and try to take them out. And so you become risk averse. You don't want to. You've got 6 years. You want to take full advantage of all of them. So it has some downsides. I'd like to see a place where I said it worked. If somebody could show me a place that works, I would be for it. Right now, I can't find that place.
You brought up a really good point, and you really got the old wheels turning in my cranium thinking about what you just said, and I appreciate that. Richard, let me ask you, going back to the illegal aliens or the DACA students, etc., they're not all students. They're not all rocket scientists in the making. Many are felons. Many, of course, never graduated from high school. Many are in gangs. We've got a real problem there. But we have states like California and Jerry Brown becoming a sanctuary state, and basically thumbing their nose and laughing at the laws of this United States of America. We've got total anarchy and chaos just brewing, like in the state of California, also like in New York City with Bill de Blasio, and in Chicago with the rest of the Democratic leadership. How in the world are we ever going to get this country back together again when you've got people just defying federal law?
Well, that's a great question. I don't know the answer truthfully, but I can tell you this. Remember a couple of months ago we were talking about the importance of Jeff Sessions as Attorney General and how, a lot of people were mad at him on the recusal and things like that. This is why we have Jeff Sessions as the Attorney General. Because Jeff Sessions understands this, and he understands that you can't allow these sanctuary cities and sanctuary states to stand. Jeff Sessions knows that, there's a lot of money that gets allocated from the federal government through the COPS program, that you don't have to give the state of California money for law enforcement who are then going to go and arrest people who follow federal law. So Jeff Sessions knows that. Jeff Sessions has drawn a line in the sand on that, and he's fighting in court right now over that. And because Jeff Sessions is a man of integrity who believes in the rule of law and will fight for the rule of law, he is the exact person to be the Attorney General of the United States. And that's why when many people were disappointed in him based on the recusal, I said, wait a second, there's a lot of other things here that matter, and we can't throw out the baby with the bathwater, because the person you're going to get to replace him will not have these same values.
What do we do, though, and if you were President Trump and all of a sudden Richard Manning is sitting in the Oval Office today and you've got Mitch McConnell and you've got Chuck Schumer sitting across the desk, what would you say and demand is a solving idea for the illegal aliens and immigration in general for this country? Because right now it's running rampant, and we've got to do something for the American taxpayer and not worry so much about those that want to come into this country. What would you do?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't have those two sitting across the desk from me. I would have Bob Goodlett. I'd have a guy like Laurel Labrador. I'd have Paul Ryan sitting across the desk from me, and I would be talking to them about how we need to get the bill that the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee has, Bob Goodlett, that allows limited DACA, very limited DACA amnesty, but it also ends chain migration in a real way, not faking it, but really ends chain migration. It ends the visa lottery system. It puts in E-Verify, and it strengthens the border. And I would say, we have to get something that does this. And anybody who's a DACA applicant, I would say, if you want to you're never going to have a pathway to citizenship unless you go back and you reapply. through as a foreign entity. You never have a pathway to citizenship. A. B. We're going to do a real background check on you because you may have come in here when you're 2, but you're 17, 18, 19, 20 years old now, and you've done a lot of stuff between then. If you've gotten in trouble with the law, you don't get it. So I put what used to be called extreme vetting in terms of the DACA recipients to make certain that we're not allowing, they show the guys who are who are valedictorians of their high school class, but they never show you the ones who are actually running the gangs.
That's right. That is so true.
I'd vet it, and I'd say, you've proven that you should be here, and I'd find a way to make that happen, but I would not do it unless you end chain migration. I would not do it unless you secure the borders in a meaningful, real way first, and you deal with the visa lottery system, so we no longer have just somebody who randomly gets to come here who might have real hatred towards our country, and instead we have people coming to this country who actually want to be here because they want to achieve the American dream. They don't want the benefits; they want the dream, and that's what I would do.
I can see that you should be sitting in the Oval Office. One last question, and it's in regards to the wall. Chuck Schumer is playing politics again just for the Democrats and the illegals when he said yesterday, well, I think I'll pull my original intent on the wall and not ask for that money because I'm not in favor of the wall. Are we ever going to get any kind of security for us in this country, or are the Democrats going to play with this from here to eternity?
Well, they're trying to, but understand this. Schumer never agreed to fund the wall. He agreed to authorize the wall, and the wall has been authorized since for at least 20 years. So he never agreed to fund the wall, and so he's a fraud in terms of that. Everybody knows it, and the bottom line with this is there will be no deal without funding the wall. That is, and there will be no deal unless there's chain migration. But your legislators need to hear that.
Right.
There has to be an end to chain migration. We have to restrict the DACA recipients down to the 700,000 that actually were applying for DACA, not the 3.6 million that the Democrats are trying to expand it to. We have to end the visa lottery, and we have to put in E-Verify so we're certain that we're able to enforce the laws. We have to do those things, and because the people who listen to you need to tell your legislators and tell President Trump that that's the line in the sand that needs to be drawn.
Absolutely. By the way, I would be amiss if I didn't mention that you, Richard Manning, recently were recognized for receiving what's called the Impact Award, given to those who make it their life's work to fight for American liberties. And there's some pretty impressive people on that list that have won it along with you, including Sean Hannity. Congratulations, my friend.
Thank you very much. It was truly an honor, and I looked around the room at the people who were getting the award, and I said, what am I doing here? But apparently some people feel that what we're doing here is doing some good, and I appreciate that recognition. And, bottom line for this, is this country is about your listeners. It's not about the things we do here in Washington, D.C., and so we really need your listeners to be getting us good representatives from Idaho, because if we can't get good reps from Idaho, we can't get them from anywhere.
Amen. We have a quick call, and it's going to be quick. I've only got 1 minute left. Caller, real fast. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Okay, I just wanted to retouch on that term limits. I understand your view on that, but I'm curious, what's your solution when we run into the situation like we have over and over again with these people that we've elected to go to office that aren't doing their job? We shouldn't be at a government shutdown and an impasse. And when the government shuts down, there's no repercussions for them people that we've put in there. They still get their paychecks. So what do we do? How do we get what we paid for with those people?
That's a good question. Richard, short answer, please. I'm almost out of time.
The only thing you can do is vote them out, whether you've got term limits or not. Ultimately replacing people who aren't doing the job is the ultimate fear. And so if members don't believe that they have any downside for not doing their job, then they react. Then they do what they want to do. They have to fear the people and fear the voters. And so that's your answer. I mean, you have to replacing them with somebody who doesn't know what they're doing is going to hire the same staff to do the same thing that's been done before, but not have even the knowledge of what they're doing. Is not the answer. The answer is hire the people who can do the job, and then give them a every 2-year exam, and if they don't meet it, fire them.
Absolutely. Richard Manning, a friend of this program, and I enjoy having him on every time he has the opportunity. President of the Americans for Limited Government. God bless you, my friend. Congratulations on the award, and come back soon.
Absolutely, Zeb. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I really enjoy having him on the program. Richard Manning back in Washington, D.C. Thank you very much. Right now, it's time for our weather, and Wheels is saying it's almost past time. Yeah, I'm running late. And the weather brought to you by Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. Yes, sirree, providing accounting services to the Mini-Cash area for well over 50 years. Over 50 years serving you with the best of tax return preparation and tax planning and business consulting, financial statement preparation, so much more. And they've got offices in Burley and Rupert. They are the best. How do I know? We use them. You should too. Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
It's a beautiful day as we hit midweek stride. Here is your weather forecast. Today is going to be nice, and as we make our way through the rest of the week, not so much. Looks like mostly sunny skies for today. A little on the breezy side. Winds out of the east-southeast, right around 15 miles an hour. Gusts possible as high as 23 miles an hour. We are expecting a high of 44. Tonight, mostly cloudy skies with a low of 32. Now, tomorrow's when things are going to change. Snow likely mostly before noon. We're expecting mostly sunny skies with a high of 37. Winds are picking up out of the south right around 15 miles an hour. Gusts possible as high as 30 miles an hour. Expecting a 60% chance of snow. New snow accumulations of less than a half an inch possible. More snow is expected for tomorrow night, mostly after midnight. Mostly cloudy skies with a low of 25 for Friday. 40% chance of snow showers in the forecast. Winds out of the west right around 15 miles an hour. Gusts possible as high as 28 miles an hour. That is your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Oh, wow. What a forecast. Gina, thank you very much. Brought to everybody by Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. And like I said, they are the pros at what they do, providing accounting services to the Mini-Cash area. And, of course, if you're trying to start a business or increase your business or hire more employees, you've got questions, they can help you with the answers. Don't forget Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company in Burley and Rupert. Holy moly, and before I go for this hour to the news, I want to remind you, too, about Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, all of this and so much more. They are dedicated and very responsive to serving you and your needs. Call for an appointment today at 436-4424. I'm talking about the best. I'm talking about professionals. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. News is next. I'll be back in 7. Don't go away. Oh, my. And away we go into hour number 3. Zeb at the Ranch, thank you for tuning in. And, of course, our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you, and they've got all your traction tires for wintertime driving. And along with some of our great advertisers like Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Hello, Nick Greenwell and the staff at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. We're going to have our guest with us momentarily. I've got to tell you this, though. Our friends at Ark Animal Hospital at 750 21st Street, near Connection Credit Union in Heyburn. And Dr. Bill and the staff urge you to remember that if you've got baby puppies, now's the time to get the current pyro vaccines. Don't forget, could be a lifesaver. And don't forget to stock up on all your calving needs right now. It's calving season at Ark Animal Hospital. They're a mixed animal practice, meaning big or small, they love them all. Ark Animal Hospital in Heyburn. Number to call, 678-1177, where they have the warm hearts for the cold noses. Right now, we're going to go to the phone line, and I've really been excited about having this man on the air to talk about his book and what it relates to. And I'm going to say a good morning to Dr. Paul Nathanson. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. Fine, thank you.
Dr. Nathanson, if you would, I'm going to give you an opportunity, first and foremost, to introduce your book and also give us a thumbnail sketch of what it's all about. And then we'll go into the topic. So go ahead, please.
Well, actually, there are 4 books, and they're all about misandry, misandry being the sexist counterpart of misogyny. So the first book was called Spreading Misandry, the Teaching of Contempt for Men in Popular Culture. And that's really just the way men have been portrayed in movies and TV shows and news shows and Harlequin romances and so on, usually in a very negative way. Then the second book was called Legalizing Misandry. And that is From Public Shame to Systemic Discrimination Against Men. And my colleague and I, Catherine Young and I, look at the ways in which law has been changed over the past 40 years to improve the conditions of women, but in ways very often that have the opposite effect on men.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a huge book, 700 pages. Then the third book was Sanctifying Misandry, Goddess Ideology and the Fall of Man. And we looked at the ways in which religion has been used to classify men as inferior to women. The fourth book, which is Replacing Misandry, is a revolutionary history of men. And by that we mean looking at the notion of the male body as it has changed, not since the advent of feminism, but since the advent of agriculture about 12,000 years ago. So we look at a series of technological revolutions and how they have affected our perception of the male body and therefore of the function of men in society.
You know, Dr. Nathanson...
Yet to come is a book called Managing Misandry, looking at the various men's movements that have emerged in the past 20 or 30 years. And the final book, which really is the moral heart of the entire series, is called Transcending Misandry and Misogyny, From Feminist Ideology to Intersexual Dialogue. And I hope I have a chance to talk about that.
Wow. I mean, each and every one of those title topics, very interesting, but I'm going to put it in simple layman's terms and then start asking some questions. Number one, when did this revolution, if you will, start in this country? When I was growing up, the man was the head of the family. The man sat down with his wife and they made decisions together, but ultimately it was dad leading the family. It was kind of the Saturday Evening Post cover on their magazine of dad taking the family to church, dad taking the family out for a picnic on Sunday afternoon. Why and when did all this change?
Well, I think that a lot of it changed with the advent of the birth control pill, because that suddenly allowed women to enjoy sex any way they wanted, any time they wanted, and in other words, it liberated women from the fear of having an unwanted pregnancy. And it also encouraged them to say, well, you know, men like sex, so do we. And the trouble is that after about 10 or 15 years, women began to realize that their notion of sex was significantly different from that of men, and they didn't necessarily enjoy it the way in which men did, and they began to see it as a threat rather than as a source of joy. And so the current sexual counter-revolution has been going on for about 10 years, first on university campuses, which created very, very elaborate codes of sexual correctness, but which were confined to university campuses until about 5 months ago, and suddenly they went mainstream. And that's part of what we're talking about with the Me Too movement.
Right. Doctor, would you...
The Me Too movement is about real problems that women have and should be taken seriously, but it's also about a whole lot of other things, including hostility toward men in general, not only to the people who actually harm women, and also some hostility toward male forms of sexuality. So it has a kind of puritanical underbelly.
Would you agree?
So the change in sex roles has also had an effect on everything else in life,
right?
Including the family. And in fact, the family has been seen as a source of what feminists would call patriarchal oppression, because in fact they call almost every institution patriarchal oppression, and trace the origin of every problem that women have to some titanic conspiracy of men from the beginning of time to oppress women.
Dr. Nathanson, would you agree that the left, the liberal left in this country, picked up on this a long time ago and is using it as a crutch and a vehicle, if you will, to totally tear apart the value fabric of America?
Yes, I would agree with that, but I don't think that there's not a conscious, it's not a conspiracy. Nobody is doing that consciously. I think that that's the effect that it's having.
Okay, but when you look at the TV sitcoms that went and evolved from like Dick Van Dyke Show, Father Knows Best, Ozzie and Harriet, to where today the man is always portrayed as somebody that's a bumbling, stumbling boob that can't do anything right. The left is playing on this, and feminists are absolutely utilizing this as a tool to get their causes known. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I would.
And elaborate a little bit about how can we overcome this, or will it ever be overcome?
I think that the sort of generalized conflict between men and women is something that's as old as the human race, because men and women are different in some ways, and there's always a certain amount of envy. But I think that the current wave of conflict, and particularly the current moral panic that is known as the Me Too movement, that it will take its course. Moral panics don't last forever because they become out of control very quickly. They could take 10 or 15 years and cause an enormous amount of damage, lasting damage. But when the dust settles, we'll have to get back and begin negotiating once more. Men and women will have to get together and negotiate a new sexual contract, a new social contract. But there will be a lot of damage.
You know, let me say this, and I'm sure you're probably of the same vein that I am. I enjoy treating women as ladies. I enjoy opening doors for them. I enjoy holding a chair for them as they sit down at a restaurant. I enjoy the companionship. I enjoy treating them as an equal. But now men are portrayed as less than an equal, and there was a sentence that was in the cheat sheet that I had regarding our interview, and this kind of sums it all up. This new approach sets the stage for understanding a profound and growing problem that our society must face: the increasing inability of boys and men to create or sustain a healthy collective identity. That is it right there.
Yes, it is. I'm glad you mentioned that. Now, when I talk about a healthy identity, whether it's personal or collective, I mean the ability to make a contribution to the community that is, first of all, distinctive, otherwise it wouldn't be a source of identity. Necessary, in other words, it's a necessary function within the larger community. And C, it has to be publicly valued. And people who cannot have a healthy identity will sometimes adopt a negative one. These are the people who resort to crime or drugs or, in one way or another, abandon society that has no room for them as men. So it is a big problem. We have the suicide rate for men is 4 times as high as the one for women. We have men dropping out of school, so that a new freshman classes are now 60% female, which means that there's going to be an underclass of men, unemployable men. So we have the symptoms of a real problem are all around us, but nobody cares, because in the public square there's room only for a discussion of women's problems.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't dispute that we should discuss those. I just say that there's a double standard, and it's a very dangerous one if the problems of men cannot also be discussed in the public square.
Dr. Nathanson, let me ask you this part of it then. And maybe I'm being too simplistic about this, but when I was growing up, back in the 50s and 60s, there were heroes. There was Mickey Mantle. There was Warren Spahn. There was John Wayne. There was Roy Rogers. Something that boys could look up to that were men. They were absolute men. Are they gone today? Are there no more heroes for men and boys to look up to?
Well, there are some heroes. Whether they're worthy heroes is another matter. I mean, we find that some sports heroes in their private lives are abusive men. We find that political heroes very often have feet of clay. And in addition to that, I don't know that we have any heroes for men who do anything that is distinctive. The only part of manhood that is still not replaceable by either women or by the state is fatherhood. And even fatherhood has now become known to many people as nothing more than assistant motherhood, at best. So the notion that fathers play a distinctive and necessary role in family life is fading away, and I think that's wrong. I think there is a function for men in family life. It's not the same one as mothers, but it is a necessary one.
Is this exactly what the feminist movement is playing on and hoping for, the elimination or the need of men unless called upon? Is that really one of the main spokes in the wheel for the feminist movement?
I think that it is for the group of feminists that I call ideological feminists. There are egalitarian feminists who are still, faithful to Betty Friedan and want an egalitarian society, and those are mainly women who have sons that they love, or husbands or brothers. But there is a group of feminists, the ideological ones, who really are hostile to men.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, there was one woman who wrote an article in the Huffington Post about a month ago, Emily McComb, and the article was about whether or not it was possible for her to love her son, because he was a man, or going to become a man. Now, as I say, what was radical 20 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 5 months ago, is going mainstream very quickly. And we need to call attention to this. And women actually have been calling attention to it. There have been feminists who have been saying, enough, this is not, we're not going in the right direction.
Are we going to see, Doctor, and I hate to sound negative on this, but it's happening all around us now on television and in personal life, are we going to see the complete being completely going and gone of the American family? The deletion of mom and dad in the family? Is it going to be just purely a sex act to have children and raise up and mom and dad are irrelevant?
Well, I'm not a fortune teller, but the future looks bleak, I would say.
Wow.
There are people who are still marrying and having children and remaining together. They tend to be well-educated people and wealthier people, but we have huge numbers of people for whom the family is crumbling, frankly, with the help of the state.
Would you say that, address my audience in the time remaining, and like me, I absolutely am a fan of the American family. I believe in raising the kids up in a God-blessed family of going to church, going to a restaurant, going to basketball and football games. I want to see that continue in our society because I think that makes our American society better than most or better than any. Can we ever bring that back? And if we are to do so, what can we as the common folk do to try to re-implement that?
Well, if I had the answer to that question, I'd have a Nobel Prize.
Well, congratulations.
It's really hard to say. There will always be communities within the larger society that do exactly what you say. There will always be religious communities, for example. But they might become more and more isolated from the rest of society. I mean, I can't honestly tell you that I see the future in rosy terms.
But when you
might turn it around, after this moral panic subsides, people might say, "Enough. We've got to restore the family, at least in the sense that every child has a right to both a mother and a father."
Right.
But I don't know. I can't promise anything. All I can say is that we need to be aware of this, and we need to bring it into discussion in the public square and not allow ourselves to be intimidated by people who say that men have no right to say anything in the public square.
My concern is that we've eliminated in this country, and for that matter in this world, last thought on this, and then I've got to run, but we've eliminated the right and the wrong to various issues. And when a society destroys morality and eliminates the right and the wrong, what have you got for the future? You've got nothing but chaos.
Well, I agree. I can conclude on that note. You're absolutely right.
And is it
no society can exist without a sense of order and meaning and purpose.
Right. Well, I want to tell you how much I want to get your books because I think whether it's on television at night or whether it's stories that you read about, etc., there is a big cultural change, and I hope and pray that we can put it back on the norm. Dr. Nathanson, thank you for being on our program, and I wish you continued success. But where can people find your books?
Oh, they're all on Amazon.
Okay. And I hope you'll come back in the future.
I might just, to put in a plug, I might also say that I've just written an article for an online journal called New Male Studies, and in February that will appear, and that's on this Me Too crisis.
Okay. One thing I want to ask you real quick, and I've got time, the Me Too crisis, which it is. I think there's another destruction of the dating process in this country, the getting to know each other. And now young men are going to be so afraid to even try to put their arm around the girl at the movies.
That's right. If you were giving advice to your son on a purely rational basis, you'd have to say, don't have anything at all to do with women whatsoever.
Oh, my. And buy a robe and become a Buddhist monk, right?
That's right.
Okay. Dr. Nathanson, God's blessings to you, and thank you for being on the program this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Very interesting gentleman, Dr. Paul Nathanson, and he's an academic cultural analyst, and we appreciate him being on the show. And really, it's everything he said is the truth. We are seeing the demise and the throwing off the ladder into the basement, men in all aspects of our society. And guys, it's time to fight back. Hey, by the way, I told you this last hour. I want to tell you again, agriculture, as you know, is the backbone to our community right here in Magic Valley. And I'll tell you what, Brian Scott, Dan King, and Todd Lovelace, financial advisors with Waddell & Reed, great business. They'll have a booth at this year's Agri-Action, the Great Big Ag Show, at the CSI Expo Center on February 1, 2, and 3. And they specialize in comprehensive financial planning, retirement planning, investment planning, and insurance planning. And after the expo is all over, they're going to follow up with a free educational seminar on farm and ranch succession planning, and that's going to be at their office at Waddell and Reed at 1146 Eastland Drive North on Tuesday, February 6th at 6:30 p.m. I'll be there. You'd better be there, too. Caller, real quick. I've got about 2 minutes left.
Good morning. You knew I would call. Anyway, talking about young people, boys and girls these days. When my dad was the monarch of our family, he said to us girls, you have to call the shots in these relationships with boys. Because boys will go along, and if they can get their way, they'll be more than happy to do it. And he said, never give them the idea that you are up for grabs until the day after your marriage vows are taken. Because he said, boys are boys. This is what they do.
Well, you know that we each have a different engine, if you will. And, you know, the one thing that the Me Too movement is doing is absolutely lining up each and every young man or male, and they're pointing their finger at them and saying, you are guilty, you are not innocent until proven guilty, we say you're guilty. And what I'm afraid of in the future, and I've only got a minute left here, Chris, is that the dating process, the getting to know each other process is going to be thrown out the window because guys are going to be scared to death to go to town on Saturday night.
Yeah, I'm afraid so, and that's going to hurt all of us. And, parents, get a backbone. Talk to your kids about these things.
Amen. Good to hear from you. Have a great day, and thank you for your call.
Thank you.
God bless. I got to send it back over to our main studio. We're going to talk to Pacific Legal Foundation in just a few minutes, but right now, over the wheels.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
We have had our next gentleman on our program many, many times in the past, and he's back with the Pacific Legal Foundation, and we say a good morning to Tony Francois. Tony, good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm well, Zeb. How are you doing today?
Well, little by little, day by day, I always worry about more government encroachment into my life and everybody's life and trying to take over what we can do, can't do on our own personal property. And that's why I'm always excited to have you folks on my program with the Pacific Legal Foundation. What was it that just happened with the Pacific Legal Foundation in a win at the Supreme Court over the federal government on the Clean Water Act?
Well, thanks, Deb. So Pacific Legal Foundation is representing about a dozen companies and organizations across the country to challenge the Obama administration's 2015 redefinition of water.
Tony, hold on just a minute. Wheels over at the station. You're going to have to turn him up. He's way too low. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, better now. Yeah, we had to turn everything up a little bit. Thank you.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Well, so as I was saying, here at Pacific Legal Foundation, we're representing about a dozen companies and organizations across the country challenging the Obama administration's, the last administration's 2015 regulation that redefines water under the Clean Water Act so that instead of regulating just actual streams and lakes and rivers, it also says that a lot of your dry land is now the federal government's water, and you need their permission to use it. And so we've been litigating this case for the last couple of years. Predictably, the government has been trying to throw up obstacles to, facing judicial scrutiny. And what they had done in this case was said, no, you can't sue us in ordinary federal court. You've got to go through this special procedure that you can only do in the first 120 days in the Special Court of Appeal. And we've actually been now litigating over where we can litigate for the past couple of years. But this past Monday, We actually won the argument in the Supreme Court that, yes, the federal courthouse doors all over the country are open to people that want to challenge regulations like the Obama administration's waters redefinition, and that we don't have to go through this special procedure. And it's good because the case can now go forward to actually overturn that 2015 regulation. But it's also good just in the broader sense that the government was not able to restrict judicial review of its actions by forcing people into this very time-limited window through this special process to challenge the regulation. So we're pleased with it, and now we're going to be able to get on with the real work, which is getting this waters redefinition thrown out.
Tony, tell my audience, and I'd like to have some refreshing on this story myself. This issue, if it were not addressed, and we didn't have people like you and the Pacific Legal Foundation fighting for us, they being the Clean Waters Act and the government, they literally could control the water that is formed in your driveway, your roping arena, or out in your orchard, and control the water that's in that puddle, and you could be liable for any altering of that puddle. Am I wrong and way off base?
No. The government would argue, well, we try to be reasonable about that kind of thing, and I guess that's in the eye of the beholder. But as a matter of fact, in this 2015 regulation, they couldn't bring themselves to simply say puddles are excluded. They say puddles are excluded unless we think that the puddle is valuable, and then we're going to regulate it. So they can't bring themselves to even say, the mud puddle in your driveway is not regulated. So this is important for all kinds of people. It's not just farmers and ranchers who are finding themselves stuck with these kinds of regulations. The way the government redefined water in this 2015 rule means that many, many people who live in rural residential areas, or even in cities sometimes, your own backyard garden could be considered by the EPA or the Army Corps to be federally protected waterway, and you need their permit to run a rototiller through it if you haven't done it recently.
Wow.
And it's not just the government that would enforce this against you. The Clean Water Act can be enforced by environmental organizations or nosy neighbors. And so what the proper footprint of, what the geographic scope of federally protected waters is quite important. The original Clean Water Act, is obviously for the purpose of protecting the water quality of actually navigable waters, lakes, and streams, and rivers. What the agencies have done since the 70s is progressively pushed those boundaries farther and farther upstream until, for example, here in California, where I'm speaking to you from, an analysis was done of this 2015 redefinition that showed that up to 95% of the state of California could be regulated by the Army Corps and the EPA.
Oh my!
Under this redefinition, so they've really gone, far afield from their actual authority and usurped not just your private property rights, but also, your city and county's, authority over zoning and development and things like this. So very important to fight back against. And, there are plenty of horror stories. I mean, we represent Chantel and Mike Sackett there in the Priest Lake area,
right,
who are still having to fight with the EPA over simply building a home in an empty lot in a built-out residential subdivision near Priest Lake, because the EPA asserts that it's a jurisdictional wetland. So, this is something that everybody needs to be concerned about and pay attention to. And I'm awfully glad to be able to be part of fighting it.
Well, Tony, really, I don't mean to sound simplistic, but I don't think people are really aware that it's more than just water rights as far as I'm concerned. It's an assault on private property ownership and rights of private property owners, because if it's my well that I dug, I paid for on my property, and I create a puddle in my garden or dig a little pond in my orchard for my grandsons to play with their boats, that's mine as far as I'm concerned. But no, not according to the government. And they're drawing a line in the sand saying we control everything.
No, absolutely. In fact, I think everybody in your audience knows in the arid West, in the Intermountain region, water is what makes land valuable.
That's right.
And without water, you're not going to be able to do much with it. That said, it doesn't rain often. A lot of the area is arid. You may have scarce water resources, but you need to be able to use and develop and protect those. I'll tell you a very short story. A gentleman was meeting with the Army Corps staff because they had accused him of plowing his farm without their permit, without their permission. And he says, well, look, this is my property. This is not, some federal harbor or something like that. And the fellow who's the enforcement officer for the entire Army Corps district told him, no, you own the land, but we own every drop of water that God drops from the heavens on your land. Now, that's not something you're going to find in the Clean Water Act. That's just his attitude about it. But they act as though their personal opinion and their attitude is the law. They enforce it as though it is. And, so it's important to be able to stand in the way of that and protect people's property rights.
Tony, what I'm hearing and what I'm finding out in my own detective work over the many, many years of being on this program and looking really cautiously and negatively towards what happened with the Obama administration, this man, Barack Obama, and his administration left us, the citizens of this country, with a lot of cans of worms, whether it's the Clean Water Act or whether it has to do with transportation issues in this country. He signed a lot of legislative bills that are going to come back to haunt us for years into the future.
Well, this is true. The ongoing effort to get out from under the Obamacare mandate is another example of that. There were a variety of things that either his party was able to push through Congress when they had a 60-vote majority in the Senate that are now very difficult to unravel, or things that, with his famous pen and phone, he simply had his administrative agencies go out and do whether they had legal authority to do it or not. And I can't tell you how many people I've talked to who, representing various industries or businesses or interests, their experience with whatever federal agency they were dealing with during the Obama administration was, well, yeah, you can tell us the law all day long, but we're just going to do what we want to do.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to unravel. There is a lot of resistance to enacting those reforms. A lot of the people, in the everyday staff of these agencies are still there, and they don't want to be told either we're going back to the old policy or we're reforming this. So there's resistance there, but there is a heavy lift to be done, that is for sure. Our focus in that is to challenge these things in court so that this is no longer a matter of political discretion for different parties and, different agency heads. It's the courts saying this goes too far.
Yeah.
Navigable waters means float a boat on it, not mud puddles in your driveway. Once we establish that in court, future administrations can't hold that over our heads. That's the law then.
Tony, what about, and I don't mean to sound negative, and I'm just hoping and praying that everything you do on behalf of the Pacific Legal Foundation is a success, but let's look down the road and let's say that negativity prevails and they win against the private property owner. Holy cow, you're going to see chaos and mayhem in the streets the way agriculture could absolutely be put to a screeching halt.
Well, it's worth being aware that this is a very important fight for agriculture over the scope of the Clean Water Act, because there are two things going on at the same time. First of all, you've got the agencies trying to expand their footprint out into farm fields that the Clean Water Act doesn't give them authority over. secondly, there are protections for agriculture in the Clean Water Act. Normal farming activities are not prohibited or regulated under the Clean Water Act. But at the same time that the agencies are expanding their footprint, they are also trying to squeeze down and shrink those farming protections. So they'll tell you, even though you won't find this in the text of the Act or even the regulations, the core enforcement officials will say, oh, your farming's only exempt if you've done it every year for the last, many years, memory without end. If you have an interruption in your farming or you change crops, they'd say, well, then what you're doing is no longer normal for you, and you need our permit to continue farming it or to resume farming it. There's a couple of cases here in California where property was in the Conservation Reserve Program. And when it came out of the program, the Corps then says, well, you've lost the right to farm it. You need our permit just to grow wheat on it. So, this is an important fight for agriculture. It's important for farmers to be engaged in this. And, we're pleased to be continuing that fight.
Tony, last thought on this morning, but you are in California, and I've been to California hundreds of times, announced a lot of rodeos down in California for the last 40 years. I know the San Joaquin Valley is good or better than most people. I've got a lot of friends that live down there that are in agriculture, whether it's crop farming or whether it's the cattle business, the dairy business, etc. I don't know how these folks can keep going and trying to make a living and expand their business and try to make a profit with the ridiculous attitude that California has against agriculture.
Well, I can't disagree with you. I think there's obviously a lot of dedication and commitment to their way of life and their vocation as farmers. And at the same time, I think the state just has this sort of that's a goose that lays golden eggs view about it. They can plunder it, without thinking twice about it, and it'll just keep going. But, the problem is at a certain point, and some people are finding this with their children. Their children look at what their parents do and the hassle and the scrutiny they're put under.
Absolutely.
And the impossibilities that they're subjected to.
Yeah.
And they could look at that and say, why would I do that?
Yeah.
So, I really admire those who continue in it, and very much the young people that commit themselves to it, because the bottom line is, we all eat food, and so we will always need farmers, and I think it's very dangerous for the government to treat farming and food production as though it's some special interest industry that it can just regulate out of business on a whim.
Well, and I'd add a addendum to what you just said, too, because it's been proven through history. A country that cannot feed itself is subservient to all of the other countries.
Absolutely.
Tony, I appreciate you taking the time to come on our program with the Pacific Legal Foundation. How can my listeners follow this case and other cases that you're working on? Give us that information, please.
Thanks, Eb. Quite simply, our website is pacificlegal.org. You can learn about us and our mission there. You can find out about our clients and our cases. We've got a blog that you can follow, and we'd invite anybody to check us out there, pacificlegal.org.
Tony Francois, thank you so much. God's blessings to you. Keep up the good work, and anything that happens on this case, call us. We'll get you right on the air. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Zeb. Thank you.
All right, sir. Thank you. Super nice people with the Pacific Legal Foundation, and they are fighting for us. God bless them. Thank you very, very much. Oh, my goodness. Yes, we better get a weather forecast on here right now, and our weather is brought to you this hour by Scarro's Meats. Hello, Don Scarrow and the rest of the crew over at 331 North Road, Jerome. Delicious meats from Scarrow's Meats. Don't forget they've got all the bacons, and they got all the breakfast sausages, and my favorite, the bratwurst. I love bratwurst. And, of course, the smoked hams and the marinated prime ribs. Are you drooling? I am. Absolutely delicious meats from Scarrow's Meats. And go to their website and find out more, scarrowsmeats.com. We're going to have more about Don Scarrow and Scarrow's Meats in just a moment, but right now, here's Gina with the weather forecast.
It's a beautiful day as we hit midweek stride. Here is your weather forecast. Today is going to be nice, and as we make our way through the rest of the week, not so much. Looks like mostly sunny skies for today. A little on the breezy side. Winds out of the east-southeast, right around 15 miles an hour. Gusts possible as high as 23 miles an hour. We are expecting a high of 44. Tonight, mostly cloudy skies with a low of 32. Now, tomorrow's when things are going to change. Snow likely mostly before noon. We're expecting mostly sunny skies with a high of 37. Winds are picking up out of the south right around 15 miles an hour. Gusts possible as high as 30 miles an hour. Expecting a 60% chance of snow. New snow accumulations of less than a half an inch possible. More snow is expected for tomorrow night, mostly after midnight. Mostly cloudy skies with a low of 25 for Friday. 40% chance of snow showers in the forecast. Winds out of the west right around 15 miles an hour. Gusts possible as high as 28 miles an hour. That is your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
And a great job, Gina. Thank you very much. And brought to you by Scarrow's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Don Scarrow and the crew, and the number to call, 324-7657. They are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. Amen. Wow. Come on, give me a call. I'd just like anybody to give me a call right now. We'll talk about any particular subject you want to talk about at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. So I've still got a little time here. I'd love to hear from you. Come on, give me a jingle. Quick reminder that tomorrow at 11:30 we're going to be at Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner, for our monthly Zeb's Lunch Bunch. And I want to really say you're welcome. Anybody can come. Anybody can be there. And you might win one of the many, many door prizes we have. And we've got a lot of door prizes furnished by Walmart and Smith's Foods, Hanson Mortuary, Stokes Grocery, Doug Martin, Denny's. The list goes on. Lots of fun, great people, and especially great food at Denny's Restaurant in Burley, America's Diner. Caller, good morning, and thank you for your call.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Bell. Thank you for taking my call. This is Shelley calling. I just thought I'd share a few comments about this Disneyland thing. You know, it would be, it's good to know that this is I'm not glad it's happening, but it's good to know ahead of time that this is happening, because if I was like, a single parent and made promises to my children or daughter, whatever, we were going to go to Disneyland and everything else, and you want to keep that promise, and you've saved up your money, and as a single parent, you go there, and whether you take a taxi there or drove your own car, and then find this happening. Well, for the sake of the children in your car, now if you're taking taxi, you'd have to, you can't expect the taxi driver to, barge through, and we can talk a big talk and, say we're going to drive right through you. Well, you really can't do that. Like if you even drove your own car, you're really at a risk of driving through, because these people that are blocking the pathway, they could, take the air out of your tires, and then you're abandoned there, and isolated, and the law enforcement is not going to help you. So I would say at this point, try to make the experience as positive as possible for the children who are looking for a fun day, and just maybe go to Knott's Berry Farm instead. Pay. But if that place is even blocked,
yeah.
I would, the lack of money to these big places, well, if they're going to allow these picketers and protesters and these illegal aliens to stand in the way, well, it's going to hurt their pocketbook. And, we're going to pay our money somewhere else.
And I appreciate... I I really appreciate your comment this morning on that, and you're 100% right. It's got to hurt somebody in the pocketbook, whether it means that they're going to have to line up all their entrances with 1, 2, or 3 or more security guards to make sure that these DACAs or illegal aliens or anyone else with a cause does not block the way for legal people to go in and enjoy a legal family day at any event. I agree with you. I've got to do a commercial break, but I'm so glad that you called and gave that point, because it's got to start hurting somebody in the pocketbook before something will change. Thank you.
Yep. Hey, thanks.
Thank you. You know, she's right on that. And Disneyland, you know, is it going to be that they're going to have to hire more security? Is it going to be that they're going to have people standing out there with billy clubs? You don't want to get out of the way? Bonk, you are out of the way. We're going to take you out of the way. And I know a lot of people think that's hardcore. Oh, how dare Zeb say that these illegal aliens, these DACAs, should be hit on the head and dragged off to the curb. Listen. They're breaking the law by being here. Listen, they're breaking the law by stopping legal entrance into a legal business. And listen, they've got to be stopped. One way or another, we've got to change the process in this country where the bad guys are controlling the people that are the taxpayers and really the good guys. I want to say thank you to our major sponsor, and that's your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations. They've got all the tires for your wintertime driving, all the different traction designs. I learned a lot when I was in there one time talking to Randy about all the different tread designs, how they go through the different surfaces, like with mud and ice and snow and everything. Well, they've got them all for your cars, pickups, and SUVs. All you need to do is stop in and see any one of the 7 locations of your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Doing the right thing matters, and they do the right thing. They've got the best in front-end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries, and boy, oh boy, have they got highly trained technicians that can fix your brakes. Stop in. See Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. Absolutely the best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. We're going to wrap it up for today and put it back in the box until tomorrow morning at 8:06, right here on KBAR 1230 AM and streaming live on the net, ZebBell.com. And always remember, the way things were are the way things ought to be. See you tomorrow morning.